Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you can find tuning into the Oasis podcast. This will be a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe now. Also follow us on Instagram at the Oasis Podcast. That's THEOASIS Podcast. Hey y'all. So I'm back with another episode of Things I've Learned to Be True. And today it's another update on my fertility journey. But truth moment is these motherfucking tests. They not fun. Like, child. I got an HSG done today, and that's the acronym for I'm probably gonna mispronounce this, but it's a hysterosalpingogram. And ooh, that almost took me out. Like, oh my goodness. So when the reproductive endocrinologist, aka I call the reproductive doctor, when I spoke to her and I met with her actually the first time this week to do the first round of tests and blood tests, like she told me about it. They gave me instructions. She's like, oh, it might be like this, it might be like that. Don't go on Google and read about it. It's gonna scare you, but it is very uncomfortable. But do this and do that and you'll be fine. So I'm just like, all right, cool, bet, no worries. All right, got it. And so knowing myself, I said, I'm not going to Google anything. I'm not going to freak myself out. I've dealt with some shit. Again, that's a whole nother story in itself. So I've done some, I've had to do some procedures and whatever before. So I said, all right, you can suck it up. You'll be fine. It's not going to be that bad. Praying, lit some candles, did what I needed to do for protection and to make sure that, everything went right. But I don't know if it's just me, but there's something about some random person just being up in your coochie. First of all, for you guys, I'm sorry. But matter of fact, I'm not sorry. You can learn something new about what the women in your lives deal with to keep themselves healthy, or to even find out what's going on and pretty much for maintenance and keeping your body together. On a regular, we have to get pap exams, depending on how old you are. It can depend on if you have any conditions. It could be anywhere from twice a year to just once a year to once, I think, every 2 or 3 years. I forget the requirement now. And when you go, they put a speculum. You can Google that and see how fun that looks. But they pretty much stick a speculum in you and they open you up so they can look inside of you. And you might think, oh, but y'all, you have sex and you take penis. First of all, ain't no penis I've ever seen or taken like that. Okay. It's uncomfortable. It's a person. I mean, granted, it could be a doctor you've known, but still, you don't know them like that. Buy me dinner first, something, some foreplay. No. So they stick that in you and they look up in there, and it's not very long, but it's so uncomfortable. You don't know. At least me, I don't know what to do with my legs. I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm sitting there looking up in the sky. I'm trying to think about other things. It's just so awkward and so weird. So for this particular test, some random ass doctor that I don't know. He's technically, I think, a radiologist, is sticking the speculum to me. Now, he was very nice. Now I do want to say that I went to NYU Langone on First Ave, and the care was very nice. Like, I have to give them kudos for that. And I've had some experiences where it was cold, there was no bedside manner, but he was awesome. The minute he walked into the room, he acknowledged me. He told me who he was. He told me what was happening. He walked me through everything. Literally everything. Before he touched me, he says, this is what my touch feels like. And he was like, it's going to feel like this. And it's like, and he was really, really awesome. And I do love that. I absolutely love that. So that made me a little bit more comfortable that he took the care. The nurse also, she was pretty nice as well. And so he walked through, but besides the walkthrough, the shit was fucking terrible. And it wasn't as bad as I thought, but at the same time, it still was fucking terrible. The speculum was uncomfortable because of like the angle I was at. y'all have to look this up. But the angle I was in and the speculum kind of, it just felt, usually like when the doctor does it, it's like a lot quicker. This was just sitting there, like just sitting in you. You know, he's walking me through whatever. And when the catheter goes in, so let me explain what the HSG is and what it's for. The HSG is an exam or procedure, I guess, where they stick a catheter in you and they fill your reproductive area with a dye. And the dye is used to check to see if there's any blockages in your fallopian tubes, if there's any abnormalities in the shape of your uterus, your fallopian tubes, if you have fibroids or whatever, to see where they're positioned, how big they are, depending on what type of fibroids you have and where they're located. And so that was the point, right? If there are blockages, hopefully it could be flushed out with the dye. If there's no blockages, then that's great. You have no blockages. So that's not going to cause you an issue if you're trying to get pregnant. But that dye in your motherfucking uterus is the devil. Like, everything was bearable until the dye got in there. That shit automatically just cramps. Oh my God, cramps. And then they put it in and he's like, all right, the dye is coming in, and you feel that bitch. Like, he ain't had to say nothing, felt that bitch. And then he's like, turn to the left and turn to the right. And so while they put the dye in, they're also taking imaging to see what things look like. But oh my gosh, the cramp was so bad. Like, I had an automatic feeling of like, I wanted to vomit. That's how bad the cramps were. But, you know, I'm sucking it up. And he's just like, I'm sorry. I know this is uncomfortable. Again, super great, super nice. But it was quick. The procedure was quick, but it felt like forever. But it really was quick. And, he walks out, and then the nurse is like, you can lay down, take your time. You know, she was nice. And then she was just like, things look okay. So that made me feel better. Based off that, granted, she's not a radiologist, but I'm sure she's probably done it enough times. But it made me feel good. Like, okay, I ain't go through this bullshit, and then gonna hear some bad news type shit. So I felt good about that. And though the process was terrible, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it was terrible. I'm happy I did go through with it. So there was some prep prior to the exam, so I had to be put on antibiotics because they said there's a risk of infection. Those of you in the healthcare world, a lot of things have risk for infection, so they give you antibiotics for preventive measures. And so I also had to take pain meds prior. So I can't imagine what it felt like if I didn't take no pain meds. Like, I didn't feel pain. So that was, I did not feel pain. It was the cramping from the dye. That was the worst part. And afterwards, I was walking like it was just weird. And so, like, the dye is leaking out of you. Well, you have to, put on a pad or whatever. The dye is leaking out of you while you're walking, and it's so uncomfortable. For me, they said you may have bleeding. I definitely had bleeding. So my period is over, but yet feels like I'm on my cycle. Not crazy bleeding, but it's some bleeding there. But I hope this was all worth it. I'm hoping to get these results soon so I can know what my next move is. And stay tuned for the next part of my journey. For this episode's Connection Corner, I leave you with this quote. Don't be ashamed of your story. It will inspire others. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and like us on Instagram at the Oasis podcast. If you have any questions or comments, direct message us on Instagram or email us at ajsoasis@gmail.com. Again, that's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com.